everyone. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. This is Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. We are Kenny and Renny. And no, you are not seeing double. No, you didn't get your clocks mixed up. Yes, it's Friday, and we always have our Friday morning show like we did this morning. But we're doing a special pop-up episode of Kenny and Renny, as we are going to be joined by Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey, our second pop-up show. Our first one was such a great success. Ken, we had Adam Lowry on after he signed. So we liked it so nice. We're going to try and do it twice here. But how's your afternoon been here, Ken?
Fantastic. Hey, morning at the arena. Taped a quick hit. Just did a visit with Hustler for a little spot. So thanks to him for sending over some of his traffic once the marble race is over. And yeah, it's just a great Friday. Got a Game 7 tonight. Had a fun day watching Alec Manoah's Major League debut yesterday for those Toronto Blue Jays. And we wait patiently to see who the Jets will be meeting next. Sean, I mean, do you have a gut feeling on where that series is going to go?
Well, I have to go. I've said this. I don't like switching my picks up, because the worst thing that you could do is pick something and then switch it halfway through the series. You lose both ways that way. So I went with Toronto at the beginning of the series. I still think they're the team that we're going to see against the Winnipeg Jets here. Interesting situation for them to be kind of in preparation mode. And there was a little bit of talk about it today with the players. Paul Stastny, I thought, did a pretty good job of laying it out. But how do you prepare for your next round opponent when you've got two opponents who have fairly differing styles of play, right? And we were seeing certain things that the Jets were doing today, and I was sitting with Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press and watching different plays and different activations of defensemen, different strategies that we're taking. And there was one drill that we were watching that both he and I agreed this very much looks like something that they'd like to do against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe not so much the Montreal Canadiens, but that's the predicament they kind of find themselves in right now. There's preparation to be done, but you can't go too far down the road unless you know who you're playing against. And, you know, Paul Stastny had some good, interesting words to touch on that, did he not?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even Paul Maurice saying that most of it is reinforcing what the Jets were doing in the opening round, right? Where they're going to be focusing on themselves. Their video is all directed at what came out of their structure. Once they know who they'll be playing, then they'll bring that element into the equation. But it's all about reinforcing those good habits they were able to show during that series with the Edmonton Oilers. We know there are areas they'd like to continue to improve on. I think we're going to see some special teams play coming up in the next little bit. And, I mean, lo and behold, the things that we talked about going into the last round with the Jets throwing a few extra wrinkles in terms of their power play. One of those wrinkles was a back-to-the-future moment where Blake Wheeler was on that right wing half wall. And lo and behold, in the clinching game, he finds that cross-ice seam for the one-timer for Mark Scheifele, a play that we have seen countless times over the years. The only difference was it was a different player delivering the one-timer on that front. So, and we also know the job that the second power play unit was able to do in that series as well, with both Nikolai Ehlers and Matthew Perreault providing those important goals in Game 3.
We could talk about this kind of stuff all day, but our guest has arrived. Like we were saying, our first ever pop-up show was with Adam Lowry after he signed. No special occasion here. We just love hanging out with Josh Morrissey, and we'll take him every chance we can get. So let's bring him into the show. Josh Morrissey, fresh off an impressive sweep of the Edmonton Oilers. How are you feeling right about now? Is your sleep schedule back on?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Excited to be on here with you guys. Yeah, feeling a little bit more back to normal for sure. I didn't get to sleep till, pretty late that night, and then just didn't really get a quality sleep at all. And I feel like was still running on adrenaline the day after the game. So, it's taken a few days to get back to normal, but it's great to, I guess, first of all, I was just thankful that we didn't have to go back to Edmonton for Game 5. Yeah, I couldn't imagine that would have been, a very fun flight, and would have been pretty tired. So, back to normal now and feeling ready to go.
Josh, obviously the 3 overtime games, you played 42 minutes in the triple overtime game. I mean, what was it like to be part of that series now that you've had a couple days to reflect on it?
Yeah, it was awesome. I obviously coming out on the right end of the series, and, winning the way we did was great. But, looking at those games, they were all tight games. The first one, obviously, a couple empty net goals for us, and then 3 overtimes. So, it was a sweep, of course, and we found a way to win 4 straight. But I think there were a lot of good lessons there for us, to build off of in playoff hockey, and we should have a lot of confidence going into our next series here from that round. And individually, it was a big opportunity for me to play some tough minutes, and our team to play against some really high end players. Obviously, I mean, the best offensive duo in the league, and the best player in the world. And I thought as a team we did a good job. So it was a good series for us.
Josh, we've got a live audience along for the ride here, and Rob Mahoney wanted to ask, how long have you been working on that sweet celly? I gotta say, that was a great celly, perfect time of game to pull it out. Is that one you worked on, or was that just came to you in the moment?
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, once I scored and we completed the comeback, I just kind of blacked out. So from there until from the time I saw it go in, I had a nice angle to see it go in until probably, the next face-off, I was pretty much just blacked out on emotion. And I've kind of always done the same celly growing up through junior and through my time in the NHL. Depending on the occasion, it gets a little bit longer, and like maybe throw a few more like fist pumps in there, or whatever you want to call it. But I think if you look at World Juniors, my World Juniors second time around, I scored a goal on New Year's Eve against the U.S. and sort of did a similar celly. So the bigger the occasion, it seems like the longer I'm kind of on one knee or in that position, and in both of those situations just blacked out. So I guess I've done it before, but yeah, it's the guys think it's pretty funny.
You have a name for it? You got to have a name for it. And if not,
I guess the blackout. I mean, if I were to pick something, that's probably the best and only thing I could think of, really.
So it looked like a little bit of Guitar Hero in there. I wondered if there was any guitar playing in your background. I said it had the joy.
I tried to play the guitar, but I've given that a couple tries, but don't have the patience. So maybe another time.
I said it was kind of a Bufflin-esque jubilation kind of celebration, Josh, anyway. But what stood out to you? I mean, obviously, Leon better than probably anyone on your team. You were teammates in junior in both PA and in Kelowna. And what was it like? Is there any of that firsthand knowledge that can play a role when you are tasked with trying to shut down both Leon and Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you play with someone and you play with someone for a long time, I mean, you're able to really see their tendencies a little bit, and, you can kind of pick up a little bit on some of those things. But obviously you have to sort of be careful. You have to be careful with that, because, of course, looking back to the regular season, they certainly had some pretty good nights against us. So whatever I thought I knew about them then, obviously it ebbs and flows, if you will. So yeah, both of those guys are, the seasons they had in the regular season was just incredible. And I mean, they're very elite players. They can score and beat you in so many different ways. And, it was fun. It was fun to play against those guys, because, I have a history with both of them and friendships with both of them. And, it's fun to compete against your, people that and, two guys that are the best in the league, and you can go up against them.
Josh, did you expect that at all? The ability to shut those two players down, game one, game two? Because I go back, I had conversations when you were first a new Jet, one about Leon and then two about Connor. You and I had a conversation in the past summer about you were the first one to tell me, make no mistake about it, this guy's not going to be just good in this league. He's going to be special. You were absolutely right. Is there any part of someone like you who's known these guys for so long that is kind of in awe of the job that you and your teammates pulled off to shut those guys down the way that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure there's a lot to be happy with there. And I think when you're talking about these players and, around the league, there's, a number of guys that would fall into that category where, it's really team defense. The whole team has to be involved, and, the forwards have to, do their part as well. And I think whoever was on the ice against those guys, I mean, they feast off of turnovers, they feast off of offense off the rush, and, odd man rush situations. And so I thought, our forward group did a great job of not sort of feeding into that style of game. And, by turning pucks over at the blue line and sort of high in the offensive zone, and also, back checking for us to allow us an opportunity to sort of close their ice off a little bit and, make the area that you're defending a little bit smaller. So overall, I thought as a team, and then our D-men, I thought did a great job of having the confidence to play aggressively against them. And, it's sort of a fine line between giving too much space and then, playing too much of a hard gap where, they make you look a little bit silly. So I thought we did a great job, and I think there's a lot to be confident with for us going forward on a recipe that, you can win playoff games with there.
We know you had a bit of a revolving door in terms of partners this year, Josh, but you talked about the partnership with Dylan DeMello the other day on the Zoom call. What do you think made it so effective, and why do you guys read off one another so well?
Yeah, I thought Mel played great in the series. I thought, he had a great stick. He's positionally very solid. To answer the question, what makes it easy to play with him and read off of him, his reads are very simple. He's positionally sound. He's got a really solid ability to sort of feel the defensive game in our own end. And I feel like, a lot of times I just go to a spot and, know that he's in a certain place, and it just, however we both move on the ice, seems to sort of work well with one another. But, he's got great instincts, and like I said, he's easy to read off of. He's very consistent in his reads. And, I think that's something that I've always really valued, in a partner and any player is the ability to sort of make consistent reads. I think that kind of comes down to hockey sense, and I think he's got a really good hockey sense level and feel for the game. So we're definitely happy with the 4 games and in the series, and we're working right now to keep getting better and be ready for the second round, and hopefully lots of hockey here coming up.
Josh, we like to get at times deep and heavy on the Kenny and Renny show, and I can't avoid this question any longer. You had the most glorious GQ COVID flow of anyone that I've seen, and the rest of us are trying to pull it off, and we're failing miserably. I'm a perfect example of that. I was surprised when you cut the hair. I want to know, because a lot of guys have gone through the process of growing it out, trying to kind of reclaim their youth. You're still young, but how'd you like the long hair, and how in God's name could you have cut it off? It looked so good.
That's a great question. I appreciate your compliments to my flow there. No, I to be honest, I never had long hair at any point in my life. My dad was pretty traditional, and he's he would always say, you got to have short hair, gotta look professional and everything else, and whatnot. So for whatever reason, I would always have it. And honestly, he was mainly joking. I think I would always get to the stage of that awkward level where I'd want to grow it out, and then I would get that sort of loaf that you have for a while, and I would just either get tired of it or and decide to get a haircut. So I think in this case with COVID and being at home for so long, I was already trying to grow it out, and it was sort of just the perfect time, which I think for a lot of people is what it is. But yeah, I enjoyed having it. I think it looks cool, kind of flowing behind the helmet and whatnot. I think the reason I cut it was just simply I was kind of tired of the maintenance of the longer hair. I don't have this massive team, to do my hair and makeup like you have, Sean. So, I mean, it's a lot of work for somebody to do on their own. So I just got tired of it, and I think, wanted a little change up, and it was a drastic decision at first, but I'm happy with the way it turned out.
Love it. Great shot. And not a lot of maintenance here on my hair, happy to say.
For
so,
sure.
Josh, know you had influences, some Manitoba influences in your career too, both with Jets 1.0, defenseman Dave Manson, and then with Dan Lambert once you went to Kelowna. What can you tell us about what they meant to your career, and especially Dave, especially early on in your junior days?
Yeah, I'd say, sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on my puppy, making sure he's not eating my shoes or anything, but he's good for now. Yeah, I'd say those two guys, and I'd even add in also Pat Ellenuk, who for the 1.0 fans was had some really good years here in Winnipeg. He coached me growing up when I played with one of his sons for a number of years. So those three guys, it is kind of funny, right, to have that Winnipeg and Manitoba connection. And, I guess I'll start in order of who I worked with, but with Pat Ellenuk, I mean, he coached me for, I think, through a couple of years of Adam into Pee Wee, and so probably about 4 or 5 years. And I think just having the, ability to have a, former NHL player coaching you, so many, he was a pretty skilled guy with a knack for scoring goals. So we worked on a lot of skills and stuff like that. And I remember there's a photo actually of me probably around 10 years old wearing a Jets hat that I got him to sign. So when I got drafted to Winnipeg, I think my mom dug it out and sent it to both him and I. And so it's kind of pretty cool to see it come full circle. But just his knowledge and expertise of the game and really the skill development portion was so vital for me at that point. And then, working with Dave in junior, I mean, I can't say enough about what he did for me. He came in 10 games into my 16-year-old year in PA, my rookie year. And I think we had lost, maybe the first 8 or 10 games. We didn't have a great team that year. And so they kind of made some coaching changes, and he came in, and, I just remember him bringing me and an older defenseman into the room and, sort of saying, hey, I'm going to pair you guys together. And that D-man was Harrison Rupp, who was actually ended up being a 3rd-round pick, I believe, to Pittsburgh, and big, tough defenseman, great guy. And, I was sort of the puck mover skater, and he was, physical and separated a lot of plays. So, he basically formed that and said, I want you guys to play together and help each other and use each other's strengths. And all through those years playing for Dave, just so many little things that he could teach you defensively, stick things, positional things. And I think with Dave, he's such an even keel guy. He just always kept a positive, upbeat approach on the bench, whether our teams were good or bad. And, never sort of allowed me to get too high or too low on, the process of working on my game and continuing to try to get better. And just as a mentor, I still talk to him and really value, my relationship with him. And then with Lambo, Danny Lambert, didn't have the chance to work with him as long as the other guys, but, enjoyed working with him in Kelowna. He had coached the D-men there prior. I know he works with the D now in Nashville, and he was our head coach. So it was fun. We had a really good team. I ended up winning the Western Hockey League and losing in the Memorial Cup final in overtime. But really enjoyed working with him and, talking to him a little bit about what I could expect when I got to Winnipeg and in Manitoba. So 3 great guys with some Manitoba and some Jets, history. And I think it kind of worked out perfectly, I guess, looking at where I'm at now.
That sounds like you're where you're supposed to be. The chat room's going nuts over your pup. So you don't have to do it, but if your pup ends up around your feet, feel free to bring him and throw him in front of the camera. Everyone would like to see him.
Come here, buddy. I'll grab him. He's right here.
Hey, buddy.
Give the people what they want, Sean. Give the
Yeah,
people what
you
they
have
want.
to. You have to. They were demanding, and here it comes on cue. This is perfect. Probably saving his shoes in this moment anyway. So that's perfect.
Hey, buddy.
There we go.
Okay.
And so why did you go with the golden retriever?
There we go. There you go. You good now? Yeah, I had our family had golden retrievers growing up, and just love the sort of relationship that they have with their owners, and they're pretty cute too. And so my fiance and I just it was really an easy decision for us. Like I said, I had them growing up, and yeah, we wound up with Ace, who does not like sitting on laps for that long. So go back down, okay, buddy.
He looked pretty calm for a bit there. I want to go back to your partnership with DeMello, and I don't know, maybe this is asking for like a little peek behind the curtain here, but we always expected, and Ken had been talking about it for a while, we always expected that by the playoffs, Blake and Mark and Kyle were all going to end up back on that top line together. It was a full expectation by us. I think it was similar for us with you and Dylan. Was that your understanding throughout the year? Because there's been a number of explanations of why you guys were on different lines, but did you have the feeling, or did you know outright that by playoff time, the time of year when it counted, you and Dylan were going to be on a pairing together?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think, throughout the year, obviously, depending on how things are going, the pairings change and line combinations change. And in some ways, as long as you get into the playoffs, the whole year is kind of an audition to see, what works and what doesn't, and what are some different options that you can use, maybe depending on the style of team you're playing, or the, different games and style, or if you're up or down in a game, whatever. So, I guess to answer the question literally, no, there wasn't any, at least communicated to myself or to Mel, sort of end game plan that, we'd be together sort of come playoff time. But I think we've played some together before last season and had some success. Unfortunately, I thought in the bubble, obviously I thought we actually played not bad, but I felt like it was such a short experience, and coming into that, not having any games really before that and stuff, with all the time off, it's hard to sort of really show what we could do together. So it's exciting to have the chance to play together now.
Sounds like there's some work happening there.
Yeah, there's some guys working outside.
All good. I have one more quick one about Keith McCambridge. I know we were talking about Manitoba connections. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Keith, and not just Keith specifically, but we often talk about the value of the American Hockey League and that part of your development. What's the biggest thing you took from that experience, and how it helped prepare you for the National Hockey League, especially after the camp that you had as an 18-year-old with the Jets, right? I mean, that when you kind of turned a lot of those heads.
Yeah, working with Keith was great. He was the first coach I really had in pro hockey. First, when I went up to St. John's for the playoff run after my 18-year-old season, and then again having him with the Moose, my first full year pro. Keith's a very detailed coach, and he's I think a coach that does a really good job of sort of preparing the players to of what the detail and the focus and the sort of day over day ability has to be to be a good professional, if you will, in terms of your consistency, your work ethic, being on time, just being a pro. And I know that saying is kind of vague, but if I could think about sort of what he would want in a player, was to have good professionals. And I think that's what he was trying to groom sort of the young prospects to do. And so, kind of the tale of two tapes. In St. John's, we were, a bit of an older team with a few young guys when I joined on, and went on a playoff run. And then here in Manitoba, it was the first year of the team. We were very young and didn't have many veteran players and sort of struggled to win a lot of games. So I think, in both of those environments, though, he really helped to sort of stress that, professionalism and what it takes to be, an everyday player in pro hockey and be a really good pro that can be counted on. So, yeah, I think overall, I enjoyed my time playing for him, and I think he helped, prepare me to be ready to go and make the jump to NHL.
I've told this story a couple times before. I heard it from Rod Brindamore. The Hurricanes were in town. I'd asked him about being under Paul's leadership for a while there. And he told me this story about the first time he was on an NHL bench. They finished up the first period. He walked into the back room, and on the way, 8 different people gave Paul a bunch of information. And Rod was sitting there thinking he can't possibly process all this information. And they get into the coach's room, and Paul turns around, and he's not only processed all this information, but he's ranked it in levels of importance, has a solution for each of these different situations. And Rod Brindamore in that moment said, okay, I'm never going to be an NHL head coach because I'm not that smart. And then after spending a couple of years in the league, he realized no one's that smart. Paul's the only person I know who is that smart. I bring that up because you're a Scholastic Player of the Year. So I wonder what it's like for you to be a cerebral player, a cerebral person, and have access to a cerebral coach like Paul, and what that's meant for you, not only in your career, but kind of in life for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been great. I mean, I've really, from day one, my first couple training camps when I was trying to make the jump to NHL with Paul after he took over. I mean, I think I've always really appreciated his communication with the players and his ability to, sort of understand what each player is going through. And I think he has he develops a really solid plan for young guys as to what they need to do to get into the lineup and to, be successful. I think sometimes, that's one of the hardest things, is to figure out what you're selling, as I think is the term that he uses on occasion. And I think so he does a really good job of sort of putting that out there for you. And so over the years, as that dynamic has changed and I've sort of gone from a young prospect to a young player on the team and, grown into more of a leadership role and whatnot, it's been cool to learn from him through that process. And, he's got so much experience in the league with so many high-end players. And, I think when you coach for that long and that many teams, you also have the opportunity to sort of get to know a lot of different personalities and a lot of different types of people and players. And so, especially Paul being, a very cerebral guy, I think, he takes advantage of that. And on a personal level for us, he's, I think as a player, you really know that he cares about you and how you're doing off the ice. He's helped me through some challenges in my own personal life, within my family, and he's been there. And I think all the guys feel that if anything, if you ever need anything or you need something, to give him a shout, and he's a great resource. He just he understands, life is bigger than the game as well. And, he's there to support the players, when they're, struggling or whatever they need.
Speaking of coaches, we'll let you go right away here, Josh, but what's it like to have a guy like Charlie Huddy as a resource, given all he's accomplished as a player and as a coach as well?
Yeah, it's been just fantastic. A lot of the same things that I said, just now about Paul, I think, are the same for Huds. He look at his resume, over 1,000 games played, over 1,000 games coached, 5 Stanley Cups. I mean, for anyone that hasn't checked out his hockey DB, I certainly recommend it because, it's pretty remarkable. So, and through all of that, he's a very humble guy and, just loves being at the rink, loves being around the guys, loves, working on skills with the defenseman, and he's just got so much experience, to help you when it comes to maybe skills or tactics or that type of stuff. We watch a lot of video, but he's just got such a, calming personality. He's never, too high or too low, because he's seen it all, 100 times. And so he's been a great resource and certainly really helped me. There goes Ace.
That's your timer. That's your timer right there.
He says it's time to go. That's my version of Scott Brown. Just tap me on the shoulder saying, no more.
Last question.
Yeah, no. So anyway, he's been amazing, and I really have enjoyed working with him, and work with him every day watching videos. It's been amazing.
Well, Josh, I am not going to fight with the dog timer. We so appreciate you taking the time to join us here. It means a lot to us, especially in the middle of your busy schedule. Nice that you get a little bit of time off here, but thank you so much for joining us. Got lots of stuff we'd love to ask you at another time, so we'd sure love to have you back if you were willing to come back another time. Other than that, appreciate the time and best of luck in this chase here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to doing that again, and I'll make sure it's okay with the dog and my fiance, and we'll be good to go.
Have a great weekend, Josh. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Guys. See ya.
You know what I think is interesting? It didn't really occur to me until we were talking about it there, but Charlie Huddy is the secret sauce to the Jets-Oilers rivalry, because he's the guy who's been on the right side of it every single time.
Every time, yeah.
Every time. I never really thought about that. I was going to ask one last question and kind of get the idea from him. And sometimes it's maybe lost on people of the younger generation. I think even, Ken, people of our generation, take a look at that situation. We were fairly young when that was happening, right? The heartache that, Jets fans were constantly going through against the Oilers back in those days. But I mean, I wonder if the Winnipeg Jet players have any idea of the demon that they exercised in that 4-game sweep of the Edmonton Oilers.
I think it's probably been passed down to them for sure. If they didn't, they would have seen some of the highlights. They wouldn't have lived it the same way that folks in Manitoba would have. But I think they understood that the historical value, the historical films, as a great line from Connor Hellebuck back in the day. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and we'll have to get into it another time. But I'd be curious for more of the player. The players have talked all week about how great it would have been to have fans in that building and what it would have meant to them. And for them to see the videos and people kind of going wild and honking the horns on the way in, it just such an interesting dynamic for sure. But some great insight there too, in terms of a lot of the influences that Josh has had. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing some people forget. I mean, Josh was a teammate of Connor McDavid's at the World Juniors, and then with Leon Draisaitl, they were very close as young players, and
both in PA and
both places. They got traded together that year. Yeah. Leon started with the Oilers and then got sent back for that Memorial Cup chase. And I mean, I covered the 2 games that were in Brandon that year, Kelowna versus Brandon, when Kelowna beat the Wheat Kings. Man, both those guys just had incredible series. And Winnipegger Madison Bowie was on that team on the back end as well. So yeah, I mean, great, same thing. Great of Josh to take the time to join us, and let's get you to that birthday party. You got a big day in your own house here as well, Sean.
That's right. Yeah. Once again, thanks to Josh. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When I hear Josh speak, every time I hear him speak, I hear future NHL captain all over his words. Class act. We thank him so much for joining us, and we thank you all for joining us at this time, our second show in the day. If you didn't check out our first with Tim McAuliffe and Scott Oak, it was a good one, a really good one. I should also say, if you go back a couple of weeks and check out the Todd Woodcroft interview, it's interesting in retrospect, because Todd Woodcroft basically laid out the plan that the Jets were going to use to beat the Edmonton Oilers, and it happened exactly like that. So if you want to hear a coach who is inside that room talk about that situation and kind of show you the confidence that they had heading into that series, that's a great interview. You should go check it out. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Ken, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time we got to spend here together today. One last thank you to Josh Morrissey and the Winnipeg Jets for making them available. We will see you. We're going to do a playoff preview, or a second round preview. So we'll have to do that. Depending on what happens, stay tuned. We're going to be doing the second round preview before it all gets going. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.